The first way I want to show you on how you can decorate your koozies is using transfer sheets. I'm going to be using the dark fabric transfer sheets by Pen Gear. I did a tutorial about using the dark fabric transfer sheets on a t-shirt, and I'll have the card listed here so you can watch that video, but I wanted to try it on the koozies to see how they would work. These koozies I purchased from Amazon. I will have a link in the description box below, and I wanted to give this a try. So the first thing you want to do is measure your koozie so you get the proper fit for your design. You can use a tape measure to measure your koozies. I'm going to be using my caliper today. I'm really enjoying using this to get more precise measurements. So the complete measurements from the koozie from top to bottom is about 5 inches by 11. But I want to concentrate on this area where I'll be placing my design using the dark fabric transfer sheets. So I'll get the measurements for that. And that's about 3.8 inches. So let's head over to Cricut Design Space so I can make a template and get started on our designs. So this is the template size for the full complete koozie. If I wanted to do a full wrap with sublimation paper or even sublimation transfer sheets, I would use this template size. This is the template size I'll be working on because I just want the front of the koozie excluding the bottom portion. So I'll be using this template to make sure my design fits accordingly at the 3.8 inches that I measured earlier. And this is the design I'll be using today. I do have this design available on my profile for Cricut Design Space if you wanted to use this design as well. I'll have a link listed in the description box below. So now that it fits perfectly in the template size, I'll go ahead and send this to print and cut. And we'll go ahead and hide these 2 templates for later for future projects. So this is the template I created for the complete koozie. This would be perfect for if you want to do a full wrap design with sublimation paper, and that way you don't have to worry about taping anything down and having tape lines on your koozie. You could have a full template for a full wrap effect. But again, I just want to concentrate on the area that I would use to create my design, which was the 3.8 inches. I made a template for 3.8 inches, and this is going to be my area where I will create my design for my koozie. For this particular design, I will not be mirroring the design because with the dark fabric transfer, I'll be laying the design face up and then covering it with parchment paper. I'm going to go ahead and send it to my inkjet printer and set the settings, and I'll be cutting this on printable iron-on dark. With the dark fabric transfer sheets, I'm going to leave the image face up, and I'll be using my Cricut heat press to adhere onto the koozie. You do have to wait 30 minutes before removing the design from the backing and applying it to whatever surface you're going to apply it to. I'm going to take my time and place this in the center and then use some heat tape to secure it onto my koozie. I'll place the koozie in between a piece of butcher paper and parchment paper, and let's go ahead and press using my heat press. Using the instructions that came with my transfer sheets, I went ahead and pressed the koozie for 25 seconds at 375 degrees. These came out really good. Using the dark fabric transfer sheets, it laid very seamlessly. It's really adhered onto the koozie. And I think this is a great alternative if you didn't want to use vinyl and have the layering of all the different colors. You can use transfer sheet. The second way to place your design on your koozie is screen printing. This was an excellent option for me. I had a large order of 120 koozies. The client wanted the design in the front and the back. So this was an excellent option for a large order, and I'll show you how to get started with screen printing. So I'm going to go back to my templates that I created earlier, and I created a template for the regular size koozies and slims, and I'll have the description and the sizing. I'll have the sizing in the description box below. Now for both of the designs, the slim and regular koozies, I kept my actual design at 2.7 inches. That fit perfect for both of the koozies, and I was able to use that one template for both of the sizes. So I created this design here, and I'm going to go ahead and treat it as a stencil. I'm going to send it to my mat to cut, reversing the design and using removable vinyl. Okay, now that I cut my design, it's time for me to go ahead and weed out the negative layers and treat this as a stencil. So once I remove all the negative pieces, I'm going to place the design face up where the sticky side is towards the back of my screen and tape around it. I did use some transfer tape as a little window so I can see exactly where I'm placing the screen on top of the koozie. Later on, I decided just to use packing tape. That worked as well. I'm going to use some wooden sticks. I'm going to have my gloves and my screen printing paint. And I'm just going to place a little bit of the paint on my board, and I'm going to use this squeegee to help get the paint on the design. And I just learned a little is all I need. It just keeps it from clogging up the screen. And I started off doing 2 per screen, but once I went and created this design back and front, I just did 1 per screen. Just so took my time, and that way I wouldn't make any mistakes. Before I touch the koozies, I would just make sure there was no paint residue on my gloves, so that way it wouldn't transfer over to the koozie. And I just lined them up where they were before. I have this tape on the board to just keep them still. As I'm removing that screen, it doesn't lift up. And I just kept going. Just a little bit of paint worked. I noticed when I used a lot, I end up having a lot of smear. As you can see here, it didn't come out well. So I was lucky I was able just to rinse them off with some warm water, let them dry, and then redo it. But and again, this technique really worked well for my large order. I just placed them, and I was able to get all of those 120 koozies done. So the next option that I want to show you is using heat transfer vinyl on your koozies. So I found this design in Cricut Design Space, and I like the verbiage and I like the font, and I kind of want to replicate this design with more bubble letters. So I have this font that I got from defont.com. I'll have the link in the description box below. It's called Bubblegum, and I'm going to use that to create the design I Can't Adult Today. I like that. And since I'm going to go ahead and create this design on my regular size koozie, I'm going to stay in the dimensions that I created here. I know about 2.7 seems to be a really good starting point to create the design. And I like the way that fits right into my template that I created to have, so I can have a visual how much space I'll be using on the actual koozie. So I'll go ahead and we'll hide these two templates, and we'll go ahead and send this to make it. I'm going to be using Oracle's heat transfer vinyl. So I'm going to make sure I mirror my design, and then I'm just going to bring it away from the corners with my particular cutting machine. Sometimes when the design is just right butt end to the corner, I do get some ripping. So I'm just going to scoot it over, and you learn little things with your machine, little things and little tricks that you might have to do to make your project come out seamlessly. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. And I'm hoping you're enjoying all these fun tutorials that we have at Crafting with Shaneda. I'm working on so many much more fun projects for the summer, and we're going to make it beginner friendly and easy to follow along. I'm going to go ahead and use everyday iron-on for this particular cut. And let's go ahead and go to the cutting machine and cut the design and prepare it on the koozie. So I set my heat press at 350 degrees at 35 seconds, and then pressed the HTV onto the koozie, and it came out amazing. And the final option I want to show you today is using sublimation to place your design on your koozies. Now, using that same design that I created earlier with the heat transfer vinyl koozie, I'm going to go ahead and use that same design for our sublimation koozie. I'm just going to add a little glass of wine on top. And just make sure my design stays in the perimeter of my template. Since I'll be using the Sublimation ink transfer sheets, I'm going to mirror my design, and then I'm going to set my material base to infusible ink transfer sheets. I have this saved because I've been doing a lot of projects with the infusible ink sheets, but if you need to find it, you could browse all materials and then search for it, and it should pop up. And save it if you're going to be doing a lot of sublimation projects. We will have a lot more coming here at Crafting with Shaneda. Now I'm going to use my green standard grit mat and my sublimation ink transfer sheet. I'm going to place it where the shiny side is on the mat, and the ink or the design is going to be facing me. And being sure not to touch it too much with oils on my hands to try to keep that from getting onto the transfer sheet. So I went ahead and cut out the design. I'm going to trim away the excess and use it for another project. And I'm just going to remove the transfer sheet and just leave the verbiage. So I went ahead and weeded away the design, and now I'm ready to prepare my koozie to place on the sublimation. So for the koozie, I went ahead and preheat it at 350 degrees for 35 seconds, and then place the sublimation on for 35 more seconds, and it came out great. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I gave you a few different options on how you can place a design on a koozie without just using HTV. These are all really durable and they're fun to make. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I hope you learned a little or a lot, and we cannot wait to see you on the next video of Crafting with Shaneda. Happy crafting!